ignored, yeah, not being heard. Rejection, that's the key. Yes, rejection. Stop talking to them and they freak out. There's no way they can handle it. So how do they behave under stress and in conflict? Talkative, yeah, they talk even more. Nervous, passive-aggressive, impulsive, yeah. Sarcastic, superficial, they try to talk their way out of the situation because they're good at it. So let's amplify it. Let's talk more. So they judge you based on what exactly? How can you gain their trust? How you approve them? What else? Ability to cooperate, status, listen to them. Listener. So most of you are mentioning something emotional, and that's correct, because they need compliments, they need acknowledgement. So it's about how you make them feel. It's not how useful you are, but how you make them feel. They have to like you in order to do business with you or to work with you. A deep person, not really. As long as you are useful, they don't have to like you. But if you are useful, they will. That's a different trust. So the S, people-oriented, introverted. What do they need? What do they want? Patience, stability, calmness, yeah, loyalty, security, calmness, clarity, steady, peace, yeah, very important. Routine, stability, harmony, no conflict. That's what we want. So what are they scared of? What is the biggest fear? Confrontation, change, yeah, exactly. They are terrified of sudden change. And you see, this is where we talk about the common sense and the golden rule, because a D type of person loves challenges and variety. And then the S is terrified of it. It's pleasure for one, but it's pain for the other one. Imagine that you have a D type of manager, an S type of employee, or even just family members. It's completely different, opposing forces guiding the behavior. But here's the trick. If you're a D person, you're not going to notice it. Because how do they behave under stress and conflict? What do you think? Quiet and distant, freeze, withdraw. Yeah, exactly. So they become submissive, indecisive, and they comply, so they agree, but they don't mean it because it's a self-defense mechanism. They try to protect themselves because the pain now is stronger than the pain in the future. So, you know what, I say now yes, so I can avoid the pain, and let's hope for the best later on. So from a D perspective, it looks like, yeah, but you said yes, you promised it. Yeah, because you threatened me. But we don't discuss these things. We just assume that we understand people. So they judge you based on what exactly? What's important to them? Logic, order, how consistent you are, yeah. How you behave with people, yeah. What else? Working together as a team, consistency, yeah, that's all good, exactly. So it's compatibility, contribution, yeah, empathy, all important. Don't rock the boat, contribute, be part of it, be equal, that's important. So that's an S type of person. So here's the thing, an S type of person is going to naturally have an S type of behavior or behavior style, because that's the kind of behavior style that supports that person's needs and reflects their values, unless they have to conform to different norms. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So let's look at the last one, the C type. Introverted, task-oriented, part of the system, yeah. So what do they need and want? Action, details, results. Everybody wants results. Question is how you get it. Independence, structure, process, order, yeah, accuracy. Pretty much, yeah. Standards, structure, being correct, and logical. I mean, these are beautiful words. So what are they scared of them? What is the exact opposite? Mess, yes. Chaos. Being wrong, that's the one. Criticism, yes, exactly. They are terrified of being wrong because when they make a mistake, then they feel that the world is watching them and judging them, but usually they don't even notice them. But that's the feeling. And if you look at, for example, disc reports, then often they say that the C type of people are really diplomatic, which is not exactly true because they don't really care about the feelings. That's not the priority. They're task-oriented. Because they behave under stress and in conflict, they withdraw, they are stubborn, and they avoid it. And it's not because they are diplomatic, it's because they have to go home to check if they are 100% correct or not. And when they are going to confront you, but not until then. Because if there is a disagreement, there is a conflict, and they are not 100% prepared, then there is a chance that it turns out they were wrong. And that would be the end of the world. So that makes them look diplomatic, but they're not necessarily diplomatic. So they judge you based on what exactly? What's important to them? Expertise, yeah? What else? Evidence. Facts. Perfection. Perfection is a beautiful word for them. Exactly. Precision, accuracy, quality. So if you are late for the meeting, they're not going to trust you. They don't have to like you. They are very specific. As long as you deliver and you are not rocking the boat, and you are not questioning them too much, you're going to work together. Very different needs, very different values. And this is the reason why they develop different personality types, because they have different values and needs. And that is the key. So one more question for this. How would you describe the behavior of a C-type of person? Passive, okay. Just in general, communication style, values, beliefs, behavior. Task, cold, yeah, cold. Guarded. What else? Assertive but not pushy. Okay. Focused, direct. Facts. It's like an aerospace engine. Practical, yeah. Practical. Procedures, no conflict. Any more? How would you describe perfectionistic? Yeah.
Oo, kabalo. Mawa kang giigaan dahil kong pila. Waman may kabalo pila.
Brain-oriented, data-driven. Results-driven. Okay. Is that all? Do you think they are friendly? Do you think they are warm? Everything is done for a reason? Yeah. No, social. Good friends only. Okay. Interesting. Selective. Socially awkward. Okay. Unable to be assertive. So the opposite would be reflective then. Reflective. Establishing relationship, indirect. Okay. So this is going to be important tomorrow, and you will see why. Because when we talk about the different personality types, then there are so many courses talking about how to create a high-performing team, how you can manage the different personality types, and there are plenty of solutions for them. But what they are not really talking about is, who are the voices in our head? How can you create a high-performing team inside before you attempt to do that on the outside? And this is one of the biggest questions. Because I'm pretty sure that you had a lot of arguments with yourself. And, all of them sound really realistic. And you've known them for years and years, so they are part of you. But what is going on there? So, for example, yesterday, most of you did the report, and some of you have done it before. And the reason why we did it is because if you go to page 7, then you're going to see the percentage. Because we are all a combination of these. So on page 7, you're going to see your report. What is the percentage of direction in you, the competence, service, and inspiration? Because you can see that they can have opposing
You close my bag.
So, for example, when you have 2 equal results, for example, DC, and just, in the spirit of transparency, this is my head. It's mostly D, and then you have C, and then some. So that's my head. These are my voices. And if you're not aware of this topic and you don't know that you have these things inside, then it can be really confusing because opposing forces are present. So, for example, often a DC person really wants to hurry up, get things done. I don't want to be bored. And then suddenly you stop because, whoa, wait a second, slow down. Let's make sure that everything is fine. So technically, it's almost like stepping on the accelerator and the brake at the same time, or you just quickly change it. So imagine, for example, an I or C type of person. And I think some of you had that result. Completely opposing preferences, different needs. And those voices cannot live at the same time. And it can be very confusing that, sometimes you are very chatty and social and bubbly, and then suddenly under stress you withdraw and you go quiet and it goes down completely. And if it happens to someone that you know and then they just see that, whoa, what just happened? It's like having 2 different personalities. Well, yes, but there's nothing wrong with that. So that's the reason why we have to understand that all of these voices are there to support us. They are all there to protect us, to get us the results. But they have different best practices. And if you don't understand what they need and what they want, then it's going to be messy. So one of the best ways of dealing with this is once you understand which one is which. So for example, you can create your own avatars. You can give them names. And you can treat them as a team on the outside. And you can tap into the different styles. Because maybe you are doing a project and you have to tap into the D personality. So you know exactly that you have to hurry up and then you have to make progress. But then the other ones are going to freak out because they need more certainty. Then you tell them, okay, that's fine. Step back. In a week time, I need you so you can fix it. When you use this for coaching, it's so interesting how many people are struggling with this. They try to manage the different personalities on the outside, but they don't know how to do it on the inside. And that's the reason why the percentage is so important in your report, because there's a lot of information there. But if you want to go even deeper, listening to these voices, then we talk about the 6 human needs, which is very interesting, because again, we talk about opposing forces. Because you need certainty, but you also need variety. You want to feel important, but you also want to belong to a group. And you can see these are opposing forces. So how do you balance them? Well, that's the reason why we do this. Because you have to understand where your sweet spot is. Do you need more certainty than variety in your life? Do you have to feel more important than you have to belong to a group? Because once you are aware of this, then everything can change. You're not going to change where you are because these are really stable. Your needs are really stable. But once you can identify the different behaviors that you use to meet these needs, you can take back control. Because we have different behaviors. They can be resourceful and they can be unresourceful. So for example, if you need a lot of certainty, then you can have positive habits. You like cleaning and nice routines and rituals. But maybe it's an unresourceful one that you eat and drink a lot and you just watch it because that gives you the feeling of certainty. And because you cannot really change those preferences, you can identify the behavior that you use to meet that need. And if you think it's not good for you, it's holding you back, you can replace it with a good one. But you can only do that if you know what you need. And that's the reason why, for example, when people smoke and then suddenly they stop smoking,
Kaya to
subconsciously
kabok lang na
they
mo.
try to replace that feeling, so they start eating. And then they come to the conclusion that, oh, I stopped smoking, so I got fat. Not really. It's because you are looking for that feeling, but you don't know what it is
Ang sa
exactly.
ikatulo.
Because that was your only best practice so far. But if you are aware of this, then there's a lot of information there. And you can take that. And it's the same with, for example,
Dagan pa.
significance. How do you feel important? How can you get
Isa
that
nga
feeling?
tibok pa.
You want to be the smartest one, prettiest one, the strongest one,
Napulo daw.
or maybe I can, put a gun to your head, then I feel significant. There are different behaviors, different activities, but they all stem from the same source, the need for significance. So the question is, if you identify, is it resourceful or it's not? Is it serving me or not? These are very similar to the beliefs. If one is not serving you, then you can replace it with one that empowers you. Because it was just a decision, nothing more. Also yesterday we talked about the underlying structure, that everything is connected.
Ay, nalit si Rutay ka.
It is.
Patatas
Even if you
diha,
connect
no?
it, for example,
Oo.
the
Na-bright
personality
si
types,
Sus,
the
dili ko.
different personalities, the different types,
Pagka-bright
and
din.
different psychological
Pag
needs.
kinabuhi.
So, for example, the Ds, they have a really strong need for significance and uncertainty, which is technically variety.
Oo ko.
They don't like being
Kapay
bored.
patatas,
They
wala.
don't like being
Na,
numbered.
wala.
They have to feel significant. The Is are different.
Wala.
They love variety, but they also need connection. And then the S type, the connection is the strongest one.
Na, wala.
And the primary, certainty.
Ay,
That's
dami.
why they need stability. That's why they need harmony.
Lagi siya, okay na lagi.
And if you look at, for
Sabi na
example,
ko
the
nagpalit
C's,
tag
for them,
patatas,
certainty
na
is
patatas
the
din
most
ha.
important factor.
Muna akong giingon.
Being correct, being logical, no mistakes. But they also need significance, which is a powerful combination. And then you can override all of them.
Napamatay direkto yun at no?
They can override all of the 4 psychological needs. But if you don't know what is the feeling that you are looking for and why, then you might end up with the wrong behavior. And it might cause you much more damage. You try to change a habit, but you cannot. You keep trying, you keep wasting energy, but you don't know why. But once you go deep, you can. Yesterday we also talked about the saboteurs. And it is very much connected to this as well, because Shirzad, for example, published a book called The Positive Intelligence, and this is his framework, which makes it very interesting. Because according to him, these saboteurs are the kind of bad habits, bad best practices that we developed as children to protect ourselves. And maybe that time they served us, but they are not serving us anymore. And one of the main one is the judge, the one who is judging you, other people, and the situation. And usually, the judge has 2, 3, or even 4 best buddies, and they try to hold you back. They sound familiar because, they've been with us for decades. And we think they are helping us, and they did. But maybe not anymore. So, for example, if you look at the controller, saboteur, the one who is trying to control the environment and everybody else around them, which personality type would be
Dagan
more
tutubot sa
likely
raon.
to have this? The controller. What do you think?
Sulod tuog ka ng pitsil.
Which personality type would use this? See, yeah, pretty much. Competence, yeah. How about a pleaser who wants to feel protected and safe by pleasing others? Yeah. Hyperachiever. I'm safe if I deliver, if I'm number 1. Yeah, exactly. See, there is a pattern there, there is a structure. Hyper-rational. Who cares about emotions? Everything is logical. See, yeah. How about the hyper-vigilance? Pay attention to everything. The world is negative. Everybody is out there to get us. See, for example, yeah. Yeah. Avoider. No conflicts.
Sa
You
shrimp,
can
sa
save,
mga to sa shrimp.
be silent.
Paabot ako, Adre, ang puto, o na
See,
dayo.
yes,
Ay,
yeah. You see,
Wala
these are
ang
the best
ate.
practices.
yung
They
kaya
are
kung
all
sa spaghetti,
unique,
bitaw,
but predictably
dili
different.
ikwandaan,
There is a
eh.
structure beneath the surface. There is a blueprint
Ano
of
na
why
daan
people
ba?
think can behave differently.
Sir, kay kung sa tubig.
Oh, victim.
Duha ka ano, duha ka kutsara ka ng oil, o duha ka kutsara ng asin. So, kanang nga kung ano nga, kanang nga,
Stickler, perfectionistic.
tanan nga kung
The
ano
logic
nga na,
behind it, if everything is 100%,
pasta,
nobody
ano
can
nga
blame
din
you.
siya ha, duha sa mga
Yeah,
nagkapin.
sees definitely. Protection. It sounds like a positive thing that I'm perfectionistic, but in reality, that's just a mask to protect ourselves. It's not necessarily a positive thing at all. Restless. Let's do more things. Hurry up. Let's have some variety. Yeah, definitely. The extroverted ones, always busy. They need variety, so they develop this kind of mental habit and best practice. Exactly. You see how everything is connected to this? So when you take that report, then you can work it out because they're all connected to this. So for example, if you look at my report, that is pretty much DC. So I have these solutions. And I can say that they are under control because, I'm on the controller side as well. But that's not exactly true. It's a lifelong journey. And the goal is not to get rid of them because when you try to do that, then, they are part of your identity. So that will trigger the amygdala immediately that, no, we need them. Because we are used to them. What you know is kind of the illusion of certainty. So it's
Nakutoy, car.
what is familiar and predictable,
Nakukar.
not what is useful.
Kisa lagi, papa.
So if you look at your report, if you look at your primary or secondary results, then it's very likely that you have these saboteurs around you. But to be completely transparent, because otherwise I cannot expect you to be open. This is my results.
Kali?
This is me.
Kamera lang.
If you look at the global disk results. So as you can see, it's
Dagan na.
B and C.
Ano ba sa mana?
Very tiny. Yellow.
Mundo.
Not much.
400 grams. Ito.
Dahil 50.
And then I took the assessment.
Kamera?
The saboteur. I'm going to share the link
Kanan?
with you. And these are mine. As you can see,
Ito lang
it's not a
hatagan. Dagan
surprise. They're all
hatagan.
there. Controller, hyper-rational, achiever, restless. And the worst thing is that I don't even see them as saboteurs. I see them as something positive. And then if you look at the psychological needs, based on the same algorithm, then probably I would need more certainty than variety. And I need more significance than belonging. And these are the things that we can't really change. These are kind of stable. What we can change is the behavior that we use to meet those needs. And here's the problem. What happens if you are in a kind of environment or you interact with people who are the exact opposite? And now you can see you don't have to go far away because maybe the biggest differences are within your family. You don't choose them, but you have to learn how to live together. Or maybe it's at work. But chances are that you're surrounded by people like this, with opposing forces. And what do you do then? So just to find out, here's a link. And this is what you can do for tomorrow. Here's a link. I can post it in the link as well. Or maybe Sinto, if you could find it, please.
Ito siya. Yan. Anak, katulungan ni mo ito gaan
And
ate
then
ha.
you can
Palili
have
sa
this
kuan ha.
saboteur assessment. So you go to the website and it's
Katulungan
completely free.
ang pag-anak na
And then you're going to get your report explaining it.
shrimp.
And I'm pretty sure that at least 3 out of the top 4 saboteurs are going to be directly linked to your global disk report.
Sa shrimp din
Because
naman
we are all
kuan.
unique, but we are
Naman
predictably
ka na
different.
ang
And there is a blueprint of why people think
uwi
that.
ano na tuloy ani pasta. Ay na. Ang soft drinks di ay.
So I'm going to
Yan
post
ha.
the
Bakit
link
sa soft
and
drinks
then
na.
you can try tomorrow.
Dito ang kon.
Hay ko. Ni men kaya ako tulid biton na Ate Jean, kaning ano na
What do you
ha,
think about
kanang
this?
kaning lechon te og manak kay mo ning hugasan nak ha. Kato ka
Resonated with you?
kanang mga pambitay. Pangon pud na.
Saan?
Pangon pud ni. Kani siguro ato sila sang isi
I know it's a
ano.
lot.
No? Dito nga
And
sa
it goes
buhay.
deep.
Para hindi butang bangko.
Ayaw lang mo di.
This is with us every single day.
Ano ra?
It's not optional.
Sibog na gamay
So the
eh.
question is, are we
Kaya
going to
mag happy
learn how
birthday
to
na
lead
dito
them,
ang lechon na yung
how to
kuan.
manage
Ano
them,
rin
and how
ito
to bring
bangko?
out the best in
Free ra
ourselves
dyan kaya
and
gano'n
others,
magod na.
or
Ito ang
Ada
bangko.
rin ibutang mga bangko. Kani sa
carry
nasa
on
mga
struggling.
kuan.
Paon na,
Ako
paon.
na sani.
because there's so many courses about how to manage other people, but what about
Kani
you?
madin ha kuasa lang
What
na diha
about
na.
these?
Itong lamisan nimo.
Once you
Isbalik sa
understand
tulog.
what you want,
Unya, unsa man yung ano pa, ang format na gamiton.
Ay, bagawas lang ako.
Katong sa pro kato isa. Katong ano sila pa kay mo
Maron.
sa
Tong maron.
don't think that you intentionally change it. I mean, if you look at, for example, your values, there are two
Tong
ways
maron.
of changing them.
Aman to.
One is
Say mo?
when something really emotional and intense, impactful thing happens to you, and then it's almost like an enlightenment, and you reevaluate everything, all through intensity and repetition. So if you look at, for example, personal development programs, that's why you have to write down everything 1,000,000 times a day. That's why you have to surround yourself with people who you want to associate with. That's part of it, but we don't really change the personality. So sometimes, when clients ask me, how come I can change my personality every day? I said, that wouldn't be a good thing. I think that's not healthy. What we can change is our behavior. It's not going to change who you are inside, but you can change your behavior. That's exactly what we want to work on. If we know who we are and what we stand for, what we need, and what we want, then after that we can work on expanding our comfort zone. We can work on our behavioral flexibility. So, for example, you saw my report. The eye, the yellow one, is 7%. It's almost non-existent. But, for example, I did a 3-day workshop in Macedonia, and I asked the participants at the end of the survey, so if you had to guess my style, what would that be? And most of the people said eye. I said, technically that's the lowest one, but that's what I was practicing. But you know how tiring it was? So, it's not about lying or anything like that. It's about behavioral flexibility. And when I hear that somebody talks about this as labeling people, as putting people into categories, I know that they had a bad training. I see this as speaking different languages, and you choose the one that the other person understands the best. And that's what we want to achieve. And that's what we're going to do tomorrow. It's about speaking different languages, not about labeling people. And if somebody takes an assessment and they learn about themselves, and they say, oh, I'm like this because I'm good. Oh, it's even worse. I mean, you cannot use it as an excuse. Because if you are aware of that, then you can do something about it. And after that, it's a decision. If you don't know about it, then we can, refer to blissful ignorance. That is kind of acceptable. But if you know that, then it's a choice after that.
Ang cake, ang cake.
You mentioned that your default setting on your profile, the so-called saboteur,
Pag 3, ano yan sa akong
you
ter,
didn't really
kaya
consider
computer.
that was negative. That was just your default. I think one of the most eye-opening aspects today was when you asked us to list in the chat what each style means and to describe them, like stubborn or whatever, that users of this tool perhaps hear or learn for the first time how others perceive them.
That's exactly part of the coaching. So if we're going to play with this, that you have the sliding scale, and if somebody is on one side, the other one is on the other side, then the perception obviously is going to be negative, and it's going to be a huge misunderstanding. I mean, the biggest distance between two people is misunderstanding. And that's the reason why the golden rule creates that kind of mindset gap. But we discussed yesterday in the very beginning. That, for example, 80% of CEOs think that they have amazing customer service. but only 8% of customers agree with them. I mean, customers who try their best, they think this is what everybody needs, but that's not true. That's not true at all. So, for example, when we do day 4, then we are going to do an exercise which is called the brain fire. And that's exactly what we are going to practice. So, depending on these underlying values,
Kalot-kalot
how
lang
do you
yung pag-ayo.
interpret the situation?
Ikatlutan ikatulan.
And then how can you turn your differences into synergy?
Itubo, tanawa ka pa.
Meaningful liability.
Berbadaw
And it
bugas
is not
mong now.
based on promise. And to me, this is not about some picture combined that we're gonna love everyone. That's not true. But if at least I understand why you do what you do, it's easier to tolerate it. And you know what? It can be equally logical. But it might not be obvious. And I think that's the best thing. And that's how we can create more trust. Because we trust what is familiar and predictable to us. So the more we understand ourselves, and the more we understand other people, the more trust we enable, the more synergy we create, the less conflicts we have. I think it's pretty awesome. It's less stressful. But it doesn't mean that we like everyone and we agree with everything. Not at all. It's going to be a tiring exercise, the brain fire. That's the name for a reason.
I just have a question regarding this, like, you know how we have this default setting of just assuming the negative? Or when you're having a discussion and you just assume that the intentions of the other person weren't necessarily good.
Yeah.
Because that's easy. Like, how, like, my question is kind of like, how do you change that default setting?
If you are aware of the perception, so for example, when I came to the UK, then it was kind of difficult because in Hungary, when you pay attention to someone, then you look into their eyes. In the UK, it's considered
Pasok na si
aggressive.
Rodrigo.
A lot of
Ayan na
people
sige
are uncomfortable.
padula-dula din ha.
So I said, okay, that I have to adopt. I know that this is a typical misunderstanding and it is holding me back. So I know that this is how they perceive me, so I'm going to do something about it. We cannot expect other people to change. We have to flex our behavior because we know that this is what most people misunderstand about us. So, but I also know that, for example, when I do workshops, that when I think, I look angry. I got that feedback a few times. So now I tell people in advance that, guys, if you ask me a question and I don't notice myself, I'm not angry. I'm just thinking. That's my thinking phase. But, you know, that's about the self-awareness. And it's difficult to change habits, but at least we can manage expectations.
May I ask if the disc is about the personality or the behavior?
But if you look at, for example, the standard disc, then they explain the different personality types, and obviously they talk about behavioral styles as well. But when you take a standard disc assessment, then it is situational. They describe your behavior in a certain situation. Global disc is different. Global disc is about you as a person. And I can tell you a very practical example. When I did a training in Helsinki years ago, then there was a consultant there who said, oh, this must be wrong. I said, why is that? And it turned out that every time she did a disc assessment, then she got a very high D and a secondary I. And I thought, okay, so what did you get here? A very high I and a secondary D. I said, okay, that's interesting. So tell me more about you. And it turned out that she was running her own company. And every time she did a disc assessment, obviously she was the owner of the company or she was a leader. But then when she was talking about her husband, who was Vietnamese, she was melting that, oh, he's so cute, he's so shy, and he doesn't talk much, but I've got my ways of making him talk. And I said, do you think that if you were really that high D, you would have the patience to do that every single day? And that's when it clicked that she understood, oh, okay, so as a person, I'm like this. But at work, I have to be like that. And that's what I mean, that we can become efficient in this environment. But, you know, you can't really change who you are. You don't change your personality. But you can change your behavior that gets you better results. And this is what technically DISC is about. But step one is that you understand who you are as a person, not as a behavior in a certain situation. That's the main difference.
So, Casby, so basically what you're saying is understanding yourself to be able to be adaptable to any given situation, despite what what framework that you're working from. But as long as you know yourself, you're able to adapt adequately.
Exactly, because we often try to change other people instead of trying to flex our behavior so we can minimize that mindset gap. Because once we do that, then probably they would make more effort as well. Or maybe they just try their best, but they don't know anything better. So it's our responsibility. And sometimes I get this question that, why should I do it? Why not them? Well, do you want better results? Do you want less hassle for yourself? Do it for yourself first. That's why. That's the best advice.
If you have one kind of personality type that you don't have, but let's say I'm not an S at all, but sometimes you have to be an S with some people because they're too much of a D, for example.
Yeah.
So how do you acquire those, let's say, behavioral tactics of an S when you have to, let's say, with other personalities?
Okay, so first we can talk about, for example, NLP. You know, the neuro-linguistic programming, that you have to copy and mirror other people's behavior. So they subconsciously assume that you have similar values and beliefs so they can trust you. But that doesn't mean that you understand them. But if you think about the exercises that we did, so you are talking to an S person. So now you know that for them it's really important, the routine, stability, compatibility. You know that they are terrified of sudden change. You know that you can gain their trust by being nice to them and being compatible and not rocking the boat. Then that is the one that is going to guide your behavior. It's not about techniques and tricks. It's about understanding what they need, what they want, so you can meet those needs and you can reflect those values. And it doesn't mean that you have to deny yourself. So this is the key, that it's not about changing you, but you can level up. You can be you, but an upgraded version. So you can get better results with less hassle. It's not a bad deal.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we have more questions in the chats.
Here we have a question previously from George, who was saying, why do we have first impressions?
Because that's normal. We have to know immediately. We make a decision if somebody is dangerous or somebody is friendly. And even when we used to be, for example, a caveman, we had to know if somebody was angry with us, because there's danger. If they push us out of the tribe, then there is a problem. We are designed to spot danger, so we have to make a quick assessment. Is that safe or it's not? And we put those people into categories. That's what we do. Quick decision.
Another question from Stephen is saying that how much of our impression is based off how we were raised or grew up?
It's all about the experience, because learning is emotional. So, we love homeostasis. We don't love change. And your brain and body is designed for that, just to keep you in your comfort zone. So once something gets you out of it, it can be very good or very bad, then the emotions go up, you pay attention. What happened? What is that? And then you associate that event with that feeling. And sometimes it's the wrong event. We do that sometimes. So everything is based on our own experience. So of course it's very important. Because let's say if I go to Spain and I have an accident there because, somebody was using the scooter and didn't pay attention and they hit me, then I'm going to have a very negative feeling about Spain and scooters. Even though, other people had nothing to do with it. But it's natural because it was so emotional. I mean, if you ask most people about what they were doing when they found out about 9/11, then most people can describe it exactly that. Yeah, I was sitting there talking to my mom, blah, blah, blah. Because it was such a shock. It was so emotional that whatever happened there got imprinted on our mind. Because learning is emotional. So, for example, when you're doing a workshop, and if the people are comfortable, then they are not learning anything and you're not teaching anything. Nothing happens on autopilot. You have to get them out. So experience and upbringing, yes, very important. It's for example, the conditioning that I told you. I know that it's a horrible story, but when you grow up and every day you hear that women cannot drive, they condition you. And you might believe that it's true. And it is going to affect your perception. unless you change it because you know you can and you know how. But it's not easy.
I was wondering if you can just kind of correct me where I go wrong in terms of the understanding that I'm trying to basically kind of piece together about the framework that we are learning. So is it that we are trying to figure out, number one, using ourselves first as an example to understand who we are emotionally, what drives us? Are we looking to get beyond sort of the mask that we all wear that's created by our beliefs, that's equivalent to personality, that's equivalent to cultural beliefs or cultural understandings? All of that, we're going to beneath all of those layers so that we can get to, are we trying to get to the emotional understanding as to what people's motives are to go about making the decisions of what they need, what they don't need, or what they're trying to accomplish, what they're afraid of? Is it more about understanding each other, understanding people from an emotional perspective, as opposed to all of these other sort of categorical, identifying labels that we use, like personality and so forth?
Kind of, but first we have to start with ourselves, because if we are unable to lead ourselves, we are not going to be able to lead other people either. So if you look at our brain, it's like a voice computer designed to make sense of the world around us. I mean, it sounds gross, but that's what it is. And it's based on our own best practices. So I don't think that we really want to understand other people's emotions, because that's kind of deep and it can go wrong. But even the emotions are based on the thoughts first. So, if you think about it, it's not about the emotion. You don't meet an emotion anywhere. It's something that is generated by the story that you run in your head. So whatever happens, you explain it. And if you explain it in a positive or negative way, then it's going to be a different emotion. And based on that, you're going to take action. And the problem with the underlying needs and the values is that often they are binary. So for example, if you have a need for something, so if something goes against your values, then it triggers a really intense emotional response and you react. And it is so obviously wrong that if I ask you what happened or why, you just cannot explain it because it's so obvious. And that's the problem, that 95% of our actions are driven by that. I mean, most people don't know what power distance is as a concept. And they think that it's an intercultural dimension. But it affects everything that we do, everything, how we interact with people, because we have a certain level, power distance, how you handle inequality, for example, in the world. It can be low, medium, high, doesn't matter, but it affects everything, how you interact with others and how they see you. So now the question is, for example, that what is normal in your environment? Maybe it's a higher level, but what if you have to conform to that law? That is going to create a tension inside of you. So first we have to understand why people do what they do, and then it's easier to tolerate it. And then emotions are on top of this. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, that's important, because let's say that we meet and you are really direct and straightforward, and I might think, oh my God, you're so rude and annoying. Then with emotional intelligence, I can control it. And I'm going to be, calm and zen and all those things. I can do that. But that's about treating the symptoms. But if I understand that you have a very low context communication style, low power distance, and your main purpose is to deliver the message as clearly as possible, then I go to the root cause of the problem before it becomes an issue. So I don't assume that just because I like being more polite, that you are rude. No, that's your common sense. You do it for a reason. So if we have these principles that I assume that you try your best, and your intention is not bad, then it's a good starting point. And that's why the definition is, the second half of the definition, the I-seeker growth mindset, that you can choose to respond instead of just reacting. So instead of lashing out on people, we can stop for a second or even less, and we can think, at least double check it. Is it really what they meant? Are they really that vicious? They really hate us? They are really mocking us?
Para kung tubig lai. Kalambog lang lai.
Another question that we have, Chava said that Angie is telling us that, let's say that unfortunately we already got ourselves into a conflict with our boss or our peer who has the completely opposite personality. What could be the best communication approach for